Okay, hello everyone again. This is Omar Soriano. I'm going to be talking about the Chromatone, and specifically I'm going to make this short video to discuss something I call pivots. You might like the word hinges, because pivots is a word that gets thrown around a lot in music. But I think of them as pivots. What is pivots? One way to keep track of the important notes in a scale or phrase is to identify pivots. A pivot is a time of day of a certain key's notes where the phrase appears to change direction on the board frequently. Now, here's what I mean. That's a mouthful, but easier shown, I think, than explained. In the last video I made, I showed you how to play some simple scales. So, for example, we have the C major scale. Now, in this sea of stickers and colors that I have on my Chromatone, it might get confusing where I'm going up and where I'm going down and how am I memorizing this pattern. And the way I memorize it is, I'm in the key of C, I'm starting on here, this white key which I call morning. Now, it so happens that in the major scale, I start on morning, I go down here, up here on there's the fifth and there's the sixth. On the sixth, I also change direction to go down here, and then I go back up to my octave. So to my thinking, it seems like I hit that morning, or more specifically, it seems like I changed direction on morning more than once. So whenever I'm looking at the whole keyboard, I say, I'm going to change direction on morning. I'm going to pivot on Monday, on morning more than once, right? So I'm going to go pivot, 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 pivot. So I'm looking, are there a million white morning keys on this board? Yes, they are. But I'm looking out for certain ones in certain places where I pivot, okay? Another way of using pivots is on a phrase you might learn. Well, actually, let me go back to the major scale, because I need to take that idea, I need to expand it on how it works in all 12 keys. Okay, so that's how it works in C, but let's say I'm going to play E major scale. Well, E, the root is that blue colored sticker, that light blue, which I call noon. Okay? Now, the logic is, if in C major scale, the root color, morning, is where my pivots were throughout, it stands to reason that on E, if the root is noon, my pivots are also going to be noon. So here we go. Start, pivot, 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 pivot. So I'm looking for that noon, because those are where my big pivots happen. Pivot, 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 pivot. And so on and so forth for the other 10 keys. And if I'm starting on D, which is night, that's going to be my pivot. Pivot, 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 pivot. Right? It's a great way to find your way around the Chromatone board. That's scales. What if you're learning a phrase? Like, let's say you're learning a jazz lick, right? So you might say, jazz lick goes like this. Which is, I think, the first jazz lick I ever learned. Right? And this one starts on morning, on noon, I should say, but I don't see a lot happening. I actually see more action happening on morning. So I start on noon, but my pivots are on morning. And then when I change to the 5/7, I see a whole lot of pivots happening on night. Right, so I start on noon, but I'm looking for pivots that are on my prior time of day. What's the prior time of day from noon? Morning. So let's look for noon. Let's look for morning to pivot. Now I go to G7. I'm going to look for that late time of day. You're seeing it? You're seeing it? Now, if you're going to take that to another key, if you're going to take that to... Now we're in C minor there, right? That's the 2 of F, right? So, of B flat, right? So you're going to look for... That's my root, but I'm looking for the pivot to be on the prior time of day, which is night. Right? And I didn't have to relearn the whole phrase. I just needed to ask myself, where's my new pivot in this new key? And at the end of the day, there's only going to be 3 sets of pivots, because once you get to the 4th key, the colors start reiterating. So there you go. There's pivots. It's one of the ways I think of getting around the Chromatone keyboard, especially when it's colored in this way in the trichromatic scheme that Roy Percha came up with and that I use in the Chromatone. So I hope that helps, and God bless you. Take care.